So I'm sure you've probably heard plenty of times that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. We hear this at such a young age. You gotta have a big breakfast before you go to school. It's the most important meal. You gotta fuel your body. But what if I was to tell you eating breakfast could actually be making you fatter, or at the very least, keeping you from getting better results? Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that there's something about the morning time that magically makes you store fat. Please don't get this twisted. But what is possible is if you're someone who's just generally not very hungry in the morning, but you force yourself to eat because you think it's so important, you may end up consuming many more calories, especially if you find that you're still just as hungry in the later parts of the day. And because you end up consuming more calories this way, it makes it harder to get results. Now, you know me, I love to look at the science of things, but honestly, when it comes to hunger signals, research is pretty split about whether more or less frequent meals make somebody hungrier. I honestly think it has more to do with just individuality. Some people like bigger meals, some people like smaller meals. I also think it's possible you tend to be more hungry just when you change your normal eating habits. Say, for instance, you used to eat 3 square meals and now you eat 4 or 5 or 6. That might make you more hungry because your body got used to the 3 meals. But I don't think there's any clear evidence for the majority of people that eating in a certain way makes you more or less hungry. Now, there is more compelling evidence that's pretty consistent about if eating in certain time frames or in certain frequencies is better, worse, or the same for fat loss. And stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to cover that. But even if there was a more optimal time to eat when it comes to results, it's kind of irrelevant if you end up overeating and consuming way more calories because you end up more hungry. And that is one of the key things I want to talk about in this video is do not fight your normal hunger signals, especially if you find you're really hungry during certain times of day. It could make sense to make that your biggest meal rather than forcing some sort of schedule that you think may be optimal. Like for me personally, I've just never been hungry in the morning. I mean, my whole life. I can think back as far as I can go, and even as a small child, I just never really liked to eat breakfast. I wasn't a hungry person in the morning. When I have always been hungry is later at night. And here's the thing, even if I force myself to eat in the morning because it's so important, I'm gonna be every bit as hungry later at night than if I didn't eat my breakfast. So you can see how forcing yourself to eat during certain times could lead to eating more calories. And it's not uncommon for me to eat 40, even 50% of my calories for the day right before I go to bed, which if you're someone who believes the myth that you can't eat food at night because it makes you fat, hopefully that will help you reconsider that myth. And while I don't typically like talking about anecdote because there is so much individuality, but if eating breakfast was that important, how did I get this freaking shredded a few years ago not eating breakfast? And what I thought was really cool was this theory of mine that I've just never been hungry in the morning really got put to the test back when I went to USF and took a course called The Science of Weight Management taught by Dr. Bill Campbell. And during this, one of the assignments was actually to attempt to do a 30+ hour fast. Now, to be clear, you didn't have to complete it. You just had to say why you didn't if you couldn't. But the whole point he was trying to make behind this assignment was we do tend to hear that we have to eat during certain times, but that could lead to eating more. And by doing this assignment, you could see when you tend to be most naturally hungry by going an entire day plus another overnight, you'll get a better clue. And lo and behold, it absolutely held true for me. I ate before I went to bed the previous night, woke up, and I didn't even really get that hungry until around maybe early to mid-afternoon. After that, I started getting pretty ravenously hungry, honestly. But at the same time, it always went away. And this is something to keep in mind as well, is that hunger does go away. Oftentimes, I think we feel like hunger is some kind of signal that says something's wrong, and if we don't do something about it, something terrible is going to happen. But that's not necessarily the case. And if you learn to sit with hunger, it will usually go away. And obviously, if you're in a dieting phase and you're trying to lose weight, you're going to have to deal with some hunger. And of course, by the end of the night, I was extremely hungry because that's when I'm normally hungry anyways, and then I hadn't ate all day. But here's kind of the crazy thing. I went the entire day, went to bed, expected to wake up the next day just like ravenously hungry because it had been so long. But what happened? No, I woke up and I wasn't even remotely hungry. It was just like any other morning. And I didn't really get hungry again until my normal eating time, which is around like 11 a.m. or noonish. So this assignment really showed that what I've always felt to be true really was true. And I really do think that most people have certain times of the day where they're most hungry. And this is why I don't even tell my clients when they should eat. It's up to them how they want to space out their meals because I want them to eat in ways that is sustainable to them, that they enjoy and will help them stick to the plan better. I have clients who are all over the spectrum. Plenty of people do intermittent fasting. I have some that actually do OMAD. I have some that eat lots of small meals and 3 square meals and snacks. Now, in more extreme examples, especially if someone wants to do every single thing they can to build more muscle, then we might go into a little more detail about what might be optimal for that. I've got videos on this. If you're interested, let me know and I'll respond to your comment. But when it comes to intermittent fasting, that's really kind of the biggest thing that helps a lot of people. It's not that it's magic. To my knowledge, there's no research that shows in a calorie and protein equated diet that it makes any difference. It's just, it can help you keep your calories down. Now, one of the things I mentioned was there's some science that looks at meal frequency and how often you eat when it comes to getting results with regards to fat loss. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out this top video next. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.